What's up, everybody? It is a special Friday edition of the Productive Conversations podcast, and we're bringing in one of our great traditions of this show, Ryan Page. Welcome back once again for another edition of the TweetCap / Productive Conversations simulcast. So happy to have you. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. Happy to be here once again. This is episode 2 of the reboot, so I'm pretty excited. I definitely like the new schedule. I'm not gonna lie. I know you are. I mean, you're Mr. Podcast, so you don't have the new schedule, but I have a new schedule, which is good because I think there's one thing that this show needs to be very upfront about. Sometimes you need to take a break from Twitter. Today was one of those days, unfortunately, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, tell me about it. So as we know, we're obviously releasing this on Friday, July 8th, Friday, July 9th. We're recording at the very end of Thursday, July 8th. Tell me, Ryan, what's been going on in the world of Twitter specifically today? And obviously yesterday's mess with Twitter. What's going on in the general sphere?
The Twitter sphere. Yeah, generally today, you're going to touch on some stories in the sports world, but obviously there's been a lot of accusations of racism running through the sports world. We talked a little bit about some of that, not racism, but some of it last week, or our last episode rather. I don't know if you've seen the new iCarly on Paramount, but there was a whole bunch of people on Twitter who were coming at one of the new stars of the show.
The one who replaced Sam, right?
Well, she wasn't a replacement for Sam, but yes, the person who is Carly's friend.
Yeah,
the person who is Carly's friend, who is not Sam. A lot of people were, again, and there's people who are going to be upset that Sam is not back, but it's what it is.
Like, she retired from acting.
Yeah, so. She's a person and she's done doing that, so you can't make her.
Jeanette McCurdy.
Yes, Jeanette McCurdy, correct. And so but also race shouldn't be one of the attacks, and yet they are for some reason. So that's just horrific. The Sandy Hook parents received the deposition documents from Remington, the gun manufacturer, for their case that contained 1,800 miscellaneous pictures of cartoons and videos of gender reveal parties. And what was supposed to be evidence, what was supposed to be documents legally mandated by the court for the case. That's what the professional legal team at Remington decided to send grieving parents.
Yeah, so, and what's the case for people who don't know? Like,
they're suing Remington.
This is the families of the
Sandy Hook
victims. Okay, and they're suing Remington.
Yeah, I want to say that it's for false advertising. Let me look at that. Actually, I could probably pull that up real quick. By the way, I said 1,800. It was 18,000. So even worse. And this one, I'll send you this picture in case you want to add it to your YouTube edit. One of them is in pretty bad taste, my opinion. Not that, they're all in bad taste, but one in particular is kind of grotesque. It's a minion that's chopped up, and it says filet mignon, so it's supposed to look like filet mignon, but it's a minion.
It's amazing that this is what people decide to do their talents as artists for.
Well, the artist, I don't know who the artist is. This is lawyers sent these. This is lawyers going back and forth. Yeah, I'm not seeing it on this article. The CT Post has an article. That's where I got most of this from. But that's been trending in the news, in the For You and in the news section. But I believe it was false advertising. So there's some sort of case there. It's been kicked around a few times. But I'm just like, it's one thing to go to court. It's another thing to insert memes into a legal proceeding, especially one that doesn't require them. And these are kids. So Today was a depressing day on well, actually, it started off as a fine day because one of the things was the little baby. Have you seen it?
I did. I seen that story is progressing. We could start that as your first story before we get into that. But and it's what a day. The rain, the hurricanes also rising up the coast. Hopefully, doesn't
not near us.
Yeah, not near us, but for the people down in the
Florida.
Carolinas, the Florida. It's always a tough time, man. That's really one of the reasons why I personally is like, do I really want to go to Florida? And there's a whole time of year where I have to like be so scared for everything in my life. Like in all seriousness, of dealing
Yeah,
with
there's a
hurricane
whole
season.
well, same
I
as
don't know
like
if
the
I could.
Midwest with like Tornado Alley. Like
Mm.
there's a whole time of year where the sky just tries to kill you. Can you imagine?
Yeah, no, I
I mean, kudos to the people who, who do live out there and have it down to a science. I'm sure for them it's like, oh, tornado, and they go to their spot or whatever. But like same as like earthquakes in California. Most of them don't. I feel like most earthquakes that are not big don't even register with the people who live there. Whereas
Mhm.
if the ground started shaking here in New Jersey, I mean, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, do
I'd
you
be
ever
like,
really
oh,
experienced an earthquake before?
no. I mean, someone told us there was like a weird thing that happened in like school. Actually, I don't know if you were there for that. That someone said was an earthquake that we kind of felt, but like,
I
I
vaguely
mean,
remember that, but
aside from if that was an earthquake, and I've never had anyone confirm it was. No, never been in an earthquake. Have you?
if I did, I didn't know what it was
Yeah.
about. No, thank goodness for now, no earthquakes, and hopefully don't have to deal with a catastrophe like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can with that. Why don't we go right
Get into
into
the
our
stories.
stories? Why don't we start with you? You mentioned "le bebe"
Yeah.
was a coined term. Why don't you explain where that comes from, Ryan?
So it comes from Paris Fashion Week, which I mean, a lot going
Is
on
this
there.
week?
Yeah. The vice president's stepdaughter made her debut at Paris Fashion Week this as a model on the runway this year. So
The vice president's daughter, as in
stepdaughter.
Kamala Harris.
Yeah. God.
Oh, I did not
I
know
don't
that.
remember her first name. It's Emhoff, obviously, because that's her name. But God, wow, I'm not on my game today. I'll probably find that one
No
during your
worries.
story, so we'll come back to that. But anyway, long story short, it's Paris Fashion Week. James Harden, basketball player, and
Yep.
Lil Baby. I think that's correct. Lil
Yeah,
Baby.
little baby, not the
Not
baby, little
not the
baby.
baby. There are multiple baby rappers. Which should be a subgenre, maybe. I don't know. But Lil Baby was there with him, and they are attending Fashion Week. And so
Right.
they were walking what looked like their hotel, actually. They were walking down the hall. Paparazzi and the news media, of course, saw them, and there's fans there too. Not professional credentialed photographers, but just regular fans looking at all the celebrities who are going to be, involved in the fashion festivities. And one of the French fans saw James Harden, took a picture, called out to James Harden, and then saw Lil Baby and started calling out to him as La Baby, which I believe would be la, isn't that the in French? I don't know,
uh,
but
I really have no idea, and I took a whole semester on French films, but didn't get the language part out of it
I'm
as I
pretty sure
should have.
like la or lay or whatever. Like I'm pretty sure that is like that's like the or whatever. But anyway, so it's just kind of funny. And so La Baby was started trending earlier this morning and well into the afternoon. Some of the other basketball players and rappers got involved on it too, which is pretty funny. I have not seen James Harden or Lil Baby tweet anything about it, but I also haven't looked that closely. So, because frankly, I was more interested in seeing like everyday people talk about Lil Baby, and it's just really funny. And like I said, I told everybody at the top of the show that I was unsatisfied with my Twitter experience today. So my other stories are not from today, but I'm glad that at least La Baby cut through the noise of Twitter today and it gave me a good chuckle. That and Sticks,
Definitely.
but we won't cover that.
But did you hear also with this story is that Lil Baby allegedly was arrested in Paris today for marijuana possession after being searched by the police, along with James Harden and several others.
No, I thought this was a fun meme. He's
Yeah,
in
no,
jail now?
this is so
That story
Harden wasn't
escalated.
arrested. Lil Baby was for the possession. And yeah, according to this from TMZ, Lil Baby and James Harden are both in Paris for Fashion Week when their group was pulled over. The Parisian police searched with their vehicle and found 20 grams of marijuana, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Just a little above an ounce, which will update here where the story continues. So, yeah, it's not been a good couple weeks with weed and celebrities.
Someone just tweeted. I guess it's true. Absolutely nobody can lock up James Harden. That's pretty good.
Oh man, that is
well,
good.
You heard it here. Free La Baby.
Free La Baby. Oh,
Free La
man.
Baby.
He looks so innocent and happy with that. He getting recognized too with that. But then oh my goodness.
How is that even possible? That James Harden was let go by the police.
that really is. That's favoritism.
It's marijuana. They probably shouldn't even be in jail. But since someone did get arrested, how are two people in the same car? Neither of them probably driving, by the way.
Right.
Neither of them are probably driving. Somehow only one of them gets arrested.
Yeah, and like they are pretty famous in the United States. And well, I don't know.
That's crazy. But that's just bizarre. See, you built off of my story there. I was just talking about the Lil Baby nickname. And I didn't know that the actual Lil Baby was arrested.
Yeah, soon enough. This is literally developing. So.
Hours later. Oh my God.
Well,
oh goodness. But
that kind of week.
Yeah, bad week for celebrities and marijuana.
Oh man, that's a story for another day to break down.
That's a whole podcast. You need to get someone who's like really into the Olympics to talk about that, I think.
Also,
I don't watch the Olympics that much.
The Tokyo announced a state of emergency for COVID outbreak. No fans. That's going to be eerie to watch. I don't think they're going to get a lot of ratings.
Yeah, but honestly, it's probably not even about ratings at this point.
You
know what I mean?
Yeah, with the Olympics, it's not like people will choose not to put them on. So, like, I guess they'll just be there. And, well, hopefully it's interesting. Well, I mean, I don't really know the big stories coming in, but besides the Sha'Carri Richardson and
well, they had the one, which wasn't weed. They had one athlete on steroids.
And there's also the transgender powerlifter. That's interesting. Yeah. But besides that, like
Ella.
What else?
Sorry, Ella Emhoff. I had to get, before we completely left Fashion Week, I had to get that. That would have been inappropriate to just completely not say her name until after we moved on. Ella Emhoff made her modeling debut. And that is the vice president's stepdaughter.
Well, good luck to her. Sounds like a great movie ahead or something.
Can you imagine? She's on the runway making her debut, and just in the back, James Harden's getting his boy arrested. Kanye was there too, right?
Of course, probably. Yeah,
he probably got him arrested
as revenge.
Now I'm just slandering everybody. I have no idea.
You're gonna start conspiracy theories.
Why not? Other people do it. Some people get shows on Fox News when they do
it. You know, I was looking at Fox News at the gym today. They just had like, it's just sometimes like these people really don't care like who program it. Like I saw someone, child gets sick after COVID vaccine. Now that can mean anything. Like I had a cold after my vaccine 4 weeks ago. That could turn into something. So like, geez, you know how to, those people are hilarious.
So not Fox, but a similar group in the UK reported on Canada's first vaccine recipient died last week. She died at 109 years old.
They didn't put that part.
That wasn't in the headline. It was in the story, but she was 109. I was like, are we really wondering what happened? I'm not. I mean, I'm wondering why she stood in line for the vaccine. Like, I've only got a couple weeks.
109. Like, think about it. When you hit not 100 years old, you have 9 years to go after that. I mean, when you hit 90, 19. So what? She turned 90 in what? 2002. So she 1902 to 2021. That's a great run.
It's what I'm saying. Like, but again, they didn't cover that. They made sure to mention she was vaccinated and died, but not that she was, literally ancient.
So, oh my
By the
God.
way, that was rude. I don't mean to be that rude or flippant about it, but like at
Yeah,
109, that's a good run.
exactly. I mean,
It's not
rest in
newsworthy
peace, indeed.
it's not newsworthy when somebody passes away at 109, unless you are a news outlet trying to demonize vaccinations. That's the
Oh
only
my
reason to
God.
report that in the news. But anyway,
And Canada just got their I know they're very slow with this.
oh
Did
no
they
no
just?
no this
Oh, this was
this
a
they,
long
this
time
is I
ago.
mean no I mean the person just passed recently, but
Yeah, but they okay.
yeah, they got the shot a while ago.
Did they open the borders yet?
I don't know.
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so. I know
Which is nuts.
I was out that way, not Canada obviously, but a few weeks ago, and they were not open yet.
Oh man. Well, somehow we'll get to Canada one way or the other. So
One way or another, we'll get there. We'll
the
start
next
sneaking in.
story. The next story I have, right?
Yeah.
So it was reported this week, which is like a very funny story, but I don't know if it's necessarily needed, but you know, New York City, the office in New York City nightlife, which I didn't even know was a thing. They have an all office for that. They essentially proposed to have some regions in New York City to have 24/7 partying. Straight shot. Some certain areas they're still debating and deciding. They haven't decided where yet or what hotspot cities and stuff like that. But New York City is possibly planning to have places where you could party 24/7. Now, the things that come to mind when thinking about this: one, bars close at 4 a.m. in New York City. I mean, how much more do we have to
Yeah.
add,
How much
really?
longer do you have?
And like, there are some places that will go to the last minute, but 4 a.m. I mean, geez, there are some people built different, and I see them. Like when you hear these stories of people in like Spain start their night at midnight and then to 6 a.m. But I mean,
Yeah, but don't they
I
go
don't
to
know if,
bed until like 11, and then they start like their day starts later?
exactly, but like,
Not a laziness thing. That's just their work day starts later, I thought.
right. I'm just wondering if people even notice or make a difference. I mean, there are some crazy people, especially if you're on, certain drugs, but you
Yeah.
will make it the whole way. But I don't know. I just thought it was funny. But also, this is an interesting choice because crime is rising in New York and it has been on a rise since last summer. And I don't really have the statistics in front of me to say
Mhm.
if it has gone on a downward spiral. I don't think so yet. But
No, it's still going up.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of ironic on opening the city more when it's, you know, when people I'm not someone who's afraid to go out New York City per se, but you definitely keep your back. You have to watch out, keep your bag, to put your headphones on late at night. But I just thought that was an interesting aspect to it too. What do you think of what's going on with New York? And just
Well,
maybe this could be
yeah.
another way to get some money.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this will end up happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because as we found out, was it yesterday or the day before, New Jersey Mayor Eric Adams won the election.
Yeah,
So he's
for the
he's probably,
candidacy of the Democrat spot.
I mean, yeah, but come on. So
Yes,
I mean,
he will officially get sworn in it when he actually wins in
yes,
November.
there's a whole formality thing, but
Yeah,
I mean,
but
in fairness, he doesn't even live in New York, and he managed to win the election
yeah,
there. So
but bottom line, Eric Adams will be the next mayor of New York City.
yeah, and so I just don't feel like this is not his jam, not his kind of policy. I mean, Andrew Yang wanted to build hype houses across New York, so I'm not saying that none of the candidates would have been into the idea of just designating a whole like portion of the city that you just party in all day. But I just don't. This doesn't feel like his cup of tea.
Yeah.
Or really, I mean, I guess Bill De Blasio. He had that whole, he was super hip and young with his pizza references. So,
Oh,
maybe Bill De Blasio do it as his last act before he leaves. Be like, New York's having one epic rager in my honor, and it's never gonna end. I guess that could be something, but I don't see the new administration, which did focus a lot on the rising crime, like in terms of,
yeah, they have to.
that's what he's been talking about. That's how he got elected. So I don't see him being like, crime's on the rise, let's make sure everyone gets drunk 24/7 in these certain areas. Just I don't think that that's something that he'll do. So
Yeah.
I would say for any of you party animals living in the Big Apple, you're just gonna have to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, sorry that
Someday,
4 a.m. is
some
not
way.
late enough for some
Yeah.
of you.
I would say, you know what? Go to bed. Just maybe go to sleep. At 4 a.m., I think you can take a nap. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Everything opens
exactly.
up again. You could, you get mimosas for brunch, right?
Mhm.
And then at lunch, you go to a pub, get some beers, and then by the time it's dinner time, you're ready to go. You grab something to eat pre-game, and you hit the bars again.
Yeah, like if
You can make it happen.
I mean, if you just start your night like 11:30 even, you still have a whole 5 hours. What else could you do? But some people need more, I guess.
That's what I'm saying. You can make it. You can make it pretty close to 24 hours with the rules as they stand right now.
Yeah.
I'd question that decision, but it's lawful. So if you have a lot of money and no responsibilities, give it a try. Maybe that'll be the pilot. Who knows? Maybe they'll test it out on some people and see how it goes.
Definitely
But
film that.
Probably not going to happen.
What's your story, Ryan?
What's the next story?
Mhm.
Well, the next story was that one about the Gen X. That was Gen Xers were trending.
Yes.
And, I mean, listen, nobody cares about Gen X. But anyway.
Except D Generation X.
Yeah, break it down. But I was reading through all this stuff, and I noticed they kept getting the dates wrong. And when I mean that, I mean they kept telling me I'm a freaking Gen Zer, and that's not accurate. Now I know you were born in '94, right?
The very last day.
The year '94, the last day of it, right? Mm-hmm. So was Melissa. So I mean, you guys are there, but for whatever reason,
so we're millennials technically, according to this one list.
You're right, where they're like 94 is the cutoff, but everything I look at, and I'm going to show the camera. So if you're watching on YouTube, yes, you look at all these articles. Ready? See them? Mm-hmm. There's 5 of them. So I did my research today. No one else is saying 94. Everyone else, well, one person said 1995 or 97.
Or 96.
Not 96. Oh, sorry, 1994, 1996, rather. So they just skipped 1995 as if we never happened.
And this would be as the oldest, the youngest millennials?
Yes. But I think the whole point is that Gen Z are not adults yet. That's they're adults, yeah, according to the law, but they're not like doing adult things yet. They're all like recent grads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gen Z is recent grads. You just graduated college.
If only we could bring our Gen Z correspondents, AJ the Man,
Debo Davis. They're not even out of college yet,
right? Yeah.
I mean, like the oldest Gen Z. So like the oldest millennials have like kids. They're like 40.
Yeah.
Right. Almost 40. The oldest Gen Zers are just getting out of college.
Yeah. Like AJ the Man and Debo Davis.
They're not professionals yet. I've been working for years.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like working like, at my father's insurance company or at an ice cream stand. I mean, I've been working.
Yeah, right.
for years. So I'm like, who are these people? Who are these Gen Xers trying to erase me from the conversation? And then again, one of these, was it not Pew Research? So Pew Research backed me up. They've been studying millennials.
Reliable source, of course.
Yes. They've been studying millennials forever. But what is it? Statista is the name of this site. Mm-hmm. They just skipped 95. It's either 94 or 96. And then everyone is, so it's weird. So everyone is confident, even on that site, that 1997 is the first generation of Gen Zers.
Yep.
So if they're saying 1994 is millennials and 1997 is Gen Z, then what are 94, 95? Are we some sort of pocket generation? Could we be the new forgotten generation, perhaps? There's just 2 years that nobody cares about us. I don't know.
There's more mystique to that. Do that as the 95, 96.
Yeah, I'm going to create 95ers and 96ers. We're creating our own generation, a 2-year
Millennial
generation. Z? Well, I think they have a name for that. It's Zillennial.
Oh,
which is horrible name. I don't abide by the authority of the Zillennials. But I don't know. I don't know why it bothered me so much, because I'm very close in age to most of the Gen Zers, as I just said.
Yeah.
Being on the bubble and all, some old people think I am Gen Z. So
exactly, same here. And like some Gen Z sleek here, like I told you, the way I met AJ the man, Debo was at a party for millennials, and they somehow got in there. And the friend I have connected to the party.
Spot, but we all know how young people get into parties that are meant for older people. So
I mean, of course, it was fun, but it's just, I really think that it was random because I went to the party. I knew the house owner, and I asked her, at the time, and I asked them, like, have you heard these people? And they said no. So I don't know. You know how those things work, but that just makes
house
me
owner. So that's the only thing that makes me feel like is a Gen Zer. I know there are millennials who have houses, and I just don't foresee how I'll ever have a house. So
right.
So I'm like, I feel like me and Gen Z, we vibe on that particular point. I'm like, how am I ever gonna have a house? I'm never gonna.
Yeah. To be fair, it was like they own the brownstone. It was a brownstone type.
I like those, man.
Yeah.
If you're downtown in like a nice city, like a mid-sized city, you know me.
Multifamily brownstone, right? But yeah.
I'm not New York. I'm not Chicago. I'm not Philly. I like visiting. Fun to visit, not to live in. But you get like a mid-sized city, right?
Oh yeah.
And you get a brownstone downtown sort of thing.
That's especially one if you have one for yourself. And
especially if it's just your family. Yeah.
Exactly.
But
so
who needs a yard? That's just more lawnmowers, and we don't mow the lawn. We're millennials.
Yeah,
we don't mow the lawn.
The rest of the time I am home living at home doing so much yard work.
Yeah.
Out of just laziness from my parents, they just don't want to do it. I feel like I hope to get to I feel like I have to be so worn out that I would do that as a hobby, like own a home later. At least that's what I'm thinking on July 8th, 2021. That could change. But yeah, I just realized that, operating a yard is hard. Like, it takes it. I mean, it's really time consuming more than hard, depending on the yard. But it's just, man, when that day comes, I just want to be. I hope that all the fun in my life is just raising a family, listen to podcasts, and do with the yard. Like, not anytime soon.
Well, hey, I'd be impressed if I ever even had a yard. So,
the brownstone, or the brownstone / townhouse. It is a good option.
Yeah. It's there. It's always an option. It's not any cheaper though. But yeah. Right. So I wanted to basically air my grievances there about Gen X, and also to say there is a conversation to be had between millennials and baby boomers. Okay. Baby boomers were the big deal, and they've been the big deal for a long time.
Yep.
Nobody cared when they were kids. Nobody cares now about Gen X. They are literally a forgotten group of people. We went from really old to the millennials. The whole middle group just got completely skipped over, which is funny. Somebody actually tweeted out. I was reading through this thread the other day. Somebody tweeted out, I saw Gen X was trending. I thought we all died. Because the only reason that they would trend on Twitter is because they died, like, a B-list celebrity. But I just thought it was crazy that Gen X was trending for inaccurate information, for spreading fake news. I should have reported it. I didn't. I should have reported it to Twitter. They wouldn't have done anything, but would have made me feel good. And maybe I could have taken a picture of the report and posted it, so even more content for Productive and TweetCap. But it really irked me when they were like, 1995 is Zoomers, is Generation Z. I was like, I don't know. And again, I don't know why it bothered me as much as it did, but that's less of a big trend. It was trending, but less of a big trend and more of a personal rant. But every once in a while, you got to do that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So stand your ground and make some noise.
Stand your ground, 95ers. I'm scared though. I feel like the 95ers is like a hate group. I don't stand your ground if you're in a hate group.
Be the genuine one. So one story I have is ESPN had a tough week. And obviously the big one, Rachel Nichols, having her comments leaked out in a New York Times article, making disparaging comments to Maria Taylor, pretty much talking about how ESPN was pressured to give people of color have more chances for diversity and more of a pressure standpoint, even though story what she did say that a year ago, but it did get leaked out, make them really look bad. And we definitely don't condone Miss Nichols' comments, but it's just a whole mess that hopefully somebody can learn from. Plus, with that, you think if she made those comments a year ago, you think they would make some changes within that year. But nope. Now people are embarrassed. ESPN looks more of a joke from that. And yeah, it's just so embarrassing. And then just the other sex conspiracy theory story about Jimmy Butler, Rachel Nichols getting it, allegedly, possibly getting it on in the NBA bubble, even though that literally had nothing to do with the story. That was just brought up. Rachel Nichols also remember when she did that, I guess, with Karl Anthony Towns calling out in a game, some game they were twitching, and it's just one of the funniest rumors.
Towns is the one who leaked that story.
Yeah, there was a story.
I didn't hear that part.
Really? So pretty much Karl Anthony Towns and Jimmy Butler.
That makes it more believable. Now that I know that, makes it way more believable.
That was the big aspect.
I thought it was just some random person. Yeah.
Oh no, you think someone on Twitter? Hey,
that makes it much more believable.
Yeah, I'll pull up.
I thought someone just like shot their shot, manifested something completely ridiculous into a real story. No, if he said it, it's probably true.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if someone made that up in the blue, that would be, power to if you were able to pull it off. But yeah, I have it right here. Yeah. Here on Sports and SB
he
Nation.
has to play with Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, and they were former teammates on the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah.
So
I'm saying, so he knows him.
Yeah, they were playing let me just again get that if I could just find the okay, here we go. So yeah, pretty much the way that went down in the story that resurfaced was I guess in a time when everyone was trash talking Rachel Nichols, this was probably even though really random, this got into, to this. And okay.
Yeah, well, this is the kind of story people like.
Right. And okay, it wasn't a Twitch, but here it is. During the Minnesota Timberwolves versus Miami Heat game back in May 2021, so 3 months ago, Karl Anthony Towns took a sneaky dig at Jimmy Butler. After a certain play in the fourth quarter, Butler and Towns engaged in a cheeky exchange. It started with Butler telling Towns that he was soft as baby shit, quote, to this NBA rookie. And then Karl Anthony Towns responded with, call Rachel then. Call Rachel. And
that almost sounds more like he and Rachel were a thing too. It kind of sounds like there might be multiple people, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I certainly hope that's not the case after
that's how I took
the games, but that's the thing that happened here. I thought there was something about a Twitch that he said that, and I figured that would come up, right away. If you don't mind, if I could just pull up this one quick YouTube.
Yeah, go for it.
Click. It's 18 seconds, but I doubt it's a Twitch. Like someone said that on Twitter, but hence. Yep, it's just this thing. You soft as baby shit, and it says call Rachel then. Call Rachel. Call Rachel. I'll punch you in the face. You soft as baby shit. That's what they said to each other. Call Rachel. And basically, again,
they both said it.
No, he said Karl said it to Jimmy Butler. And the story from that is where could this have gone? Is that allegedly in the NBA bubble, Jimmy Butler, there was a thumping sound, bump, 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 and a hotel room in the bubble. Security guard went to check, finds Jimmy Butler really sweaty, and his excuse was he was bouncing a basketball. And some of the outside, people, neighbors, someone said, it sounds like two people making passionate love. And reckon, I don't know if that's Rachel Nichols. It could be anybody. We did see player. We did see one of the players in the bubble get caught trying to sneak a girl in. That did not end well. So that's where this all unfolded. And, well, if that is true, she did cheat on him with the man, and she has been married 20 years. I mean, I don't think ESPN really wants to have their, their reporters messing around with athletes on a professional level, unless, like you said, unless they're obviously in love. And
But
yeah,
even
on
then,
top of this, just Rachel Nichols, big name for ESPN, and just all crumbling down. She did return to the jump yesterday,
yeah,
awkwardly. Literally nothing was of note. She just says sorry, moving on. And I really do think it seems that's how the story will go.
yeah,
But on top of this, too, not only Rachel Nichols, one of their other big personalities, Adrian Wojnarowski, famous NBA insider known for breaking big stories, whether trades, free agency, um, firings of coaches, yada, yada, yada. And there was a
yeah.
former insider named, I apologize if I messed this up, Amin Elhausen. I probably totally butcher that, but Amin and joined the Dan Lebitard show, a former ESPN. These were all former ESPN people. Now Dan Lebitard does a show for
Yeah.
DraftKings. Jamel Hill was a part of it too. And pretty much, they went back and forth talking about the story, and Woj was not saying she was being a team player with everything going on. And then he pretty much was saying, I have the quote here, if I could quickly read it. Quote from Amin. Are you bleeping shitting me? This guy's going to call someone a bad teammate? For real, for real? Do we want to talk about the black careers that he put a foot on because he was threatened by? Do we want to talk about that? Do you want to talk about the newsbreakers with an S of diverse background who has rapport with players that Adrian doesn't have? Then he saw us as threatening because his sources are all front office people and assistant coaches trying to move up, and maybe a video coordinator that's trying to get a better job somewhere else. So pretty much saying that, put his foot on black journalists.
Mhm.
And again, I don't know if this story really got much traction because Woj just keeps tweeting and didn't make any comment or anything. But again, the big picture here on what I want to talk about with these stories is ESPN in general.
Yeah.
Who I feel this last decade really has fallen flat on their face with the rise of more other outlets like a Bleacher Report, your House of Highlights, Fox Sports. And I mean, honestly, you could just anything you get your sports media from. Do you think this is just a huge trend of ESPN, whether it's, falling flat here in the digital era, whether is there something to, these accusations? Are they putting more white people in these, places of influence in a time where we are looking for social justice? What do you think, Ryan, as this ESPN obviously at one point was the place to watch your sports, but now with so many different outlets, is ESPN kind of obviously almost being like boomers and they need some major changes and stuff? Also,
Well,
Disney company.
Yeah, ESPN is boomers. I mean, it's the oldest sports it's the oldest sports site. They're the first. So the problem is now there's more. They have to compete and they're not doing such a good job. There's a couple things to unpack. I think the reason that the second story hasn't really done much, and I mean, take this with all of the grains of salt, especially because I have no inside knowledge. I'm just a white dude talking on a podcast. There's not a lot there. I mean, it's an accusation and it's fiery, right? It's a fiery accusation, but none of the people that he's talking about work for ESPN, with the exception of the one person. Now he talks about the rapport that he and other journalists have with players. None of that's been proven. He talks that he doesn't have that rapport with players. Again, none of that's substantiated. Now, if somebody came forward with the receipts and said, like, no, this is what happened, I think it would be a much bigger story. Because I mean, if nothing else, it's an abuse of power. He's stealing work. He took work from other people,
exactly,
pass it off as his own. So I mean, even without the racial component, which again, if it's true, would be a massive part of the backlash to him. But even if it was, two people of the same race, this would still be a story because it's someone abusing their power. But no one has any receipts from what I can see. No one is saying that this is what happened. Here's my story. It's just kind of like a vague rumor.
Exactly.
And again, all of the people who are speaking right now, and I believe there's only one, but are not ESPN employees. They are former ESPN employees, and rightfully so or not, former employees are seen as less credible.
Yeah.
Because, well, I mean, our brains are automatically going to think, I mean, former. There's got to be a reason they don't work there anymore. And it could be completely just because they found a better job, by the way. But our brains always decide that a former employee must have sour grapes, and that's why they're speaking out. So I think that's probably why it didn't catch like the other story. Which the other story, it's interesting now that I went back and forth in the course of the entirety of your conversation about Jimmy Butler and Rachel Nichols.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think it was just someone named Rachel that they both slept with. I mean, there's no evidence that it's Rachel Nichols, other than everyone's mad at Rachel Nichols right now. And so
like, wouldn't that be a story?
I mean, I'm gonna again same warning as before. But I personally actually think that might be a little offensive. You're mad at a woman reporter, so she must be sleeping with all of the athletes.
Yeah, that's a sad
–
shot that people can take.
Like again, nobody has proved. If all we heard is Rachel, and he didn't mention Rachel Nichols by name, he didn't point to Rachel Nichols, he didn't make any reference, I mean, on Twitter about her. Now, if he has, that's different. But if he just said the word Rachel and everyone is deciding now that they're upset, and they should be upset with Rachel Nichols, that's actually a little inappropriate.
No, it's offensive. And by the way, when I say
offensive, yes, I guess if that's the intent, if they know it's not true, a lot of people are saying it because they think it's true. But I'm saying if the rumor started because of that, I would say that was inappropriate. That's an inappropriate slander on somebody. Now, moving forward, because I want to get past that really quick, she absolutely deserves some comeuppance.
She should have accountability for her actions.
Yeah, and what's really sad, and this goes back to the larger ESPN thing, and honestly, it goes back to like white people in general. Just because there's a focus on hiring people with multiple perspectives into a team doesn't mean that somehow those people weren't qualified to be there.
Right.
And that's like this weird like myth that we hear is that, diversity in the workplace means that qualified people who are white are losing jobs to people of color who are less or not qualified. But that's not at all a part of what the mission is. Like, that's not at all what the point of it is. And I don't think there's any evidence that that's what's happened. I mean, just because they hired somebody with a diverse background, be it their orientation, be it their world of thought, their religion, etc., like, doesn't mean that person wasn't qualified for the job. Just means that they are qualified for the job and have, a different background than than a white person. And I just I find it weird that we have these conversations about, diversity hires, and it's just kind of baked into the conversation. I mean, like what you said, like, oh, they got pressured to hire more diverse people. Maybe, but it doesn't mean that the diverse people they hired shouldn't have a job there.
Exactly.
It just means
they're
that
just as much qualified as anyone,
right?
As long as they did the work.
Yeah, it's like, so I don't understand how it got baked into the conversation that somehow, well, I mean, I do understand it. I understand it. It's entitlement and ignorance that obviously the person of color replaced a superior candidate who was white. I mean, that's just the default for a lot of people, which is horrific and untrue. But I don't know. I just find it interesting that that's baked into the conversation at this point, when I don't know anyone who's made that case. Like, what business is like, yeah, we're going to take people who are bad at their job, but they look a certain way, because we don't actually care if we get anything done. We just need to look a certain way. Like, businesses don't run on paper. ESPN can't be like, look at how diverse our team is, and then not produce a show. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Not produce the news. They still have to do the job. So the person who's hired will still ultimately be, capable and talented at doing the job. Otherwise, they won't get hired. It's very weird to me how people have decided to bake that into the conversation. And when I say people, we know I don't mean all people, but a lot of people have baked that into the conversation when it comes to, hiring diverse teams, as if, well, diverse teams mean that less qualified people are getting jobs over qualified people. No, not really. I mean, it just means that people who typically don't get hired are getting looked at now. It really just means that the applicant pool is bigger. You know what I mean? So I just thought it was weird. And it's weird that somebody who works with, or rather a woman who works in sports, I mean, because that's a diverse background, frankly. Like there's not a lot. Now there's more, but especially she's been around a little bit now. And when Rachel Nichols started, that was not the case. That women were a big part of sports media. So the idea that somebody who frankly probably did have those same obstacles to get to where she is, trying to be a woman in the earlier stages of sports media, the fact that she would throw around that particular critique is, I mean, just super tone deaf. Because one, not true, almost. And two, she knows it's not true because people could have said the same exact thing about her,
right?
And she would have said that's completely untrue because she knows that she's talented. She knows that yes, she's a woman, and yes, maybe somebody thought that was interesting. It got people, to pay attention, but I don't know. It's just really weird that a woman in sports media decided to throw shade at people being from, a different background.
Yeah,
because
it's like
when she started, women in sports media was not what it is now.
Can't bite the hand that feeds you, and geez, well, she got embarrassed from this. I'm sure once the NBA season is over, there's a lot to reflect on, especially most importantly. Yeah, it's awkward.
They might switch her sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah, make her
might have to
go to NFL or something.
MLB.
Hockey. ESPN signed a huge contract with the NHL. Wouldn't that be funny?
So maybe they'll move her to hockey, but I don't know if she can stay in the NBA.
Yeah, it's just too awkward at this point. I mean, if she covers a Miami Heat game, people will bring this up, even if it's just for the day.
Yeah,
and we've seen how cruel fans are now with special players. I mean, look at when the Knicks played the Hawks and Trae Young, all the trolling Trae Young chants. Imagine Jimmy Butler goes on the line. So say Rachel Nichols. Someone's going to try to do that.
Absolutely. Or probably Karl Anthony Towns.
Right? So bottom line is, it's NBA Finals. The season will be done in 2 weeks. And, well, it's a lot of reflecting that everyone has to do with at least the ESPN, especially their basketball, because this happens to be these big stories come out of their basketball coverage and correspondence, and we'll just see what they do. A lot of explaining to do. And just one quick question, Ryan. We talked about ESPN obviously being the original sports outlet, media outlet.
The first major one, maybe not the original, but
first major one and not competing with the other ones. When you said that, just this quick thing popped to mind. HBO, premium cable, and, they had to adapt in the streaming wars, and HBO Max is just as good as Netflix. I don't know the actual numbers, like who has more subscribers, but HBO was able to successfully transfer in the digital and streaming age. And obviously with the combination that helps them with having Warner Brothers to create HBO Max and Warner Brothers Archives and Criterion Collection and all Warner Media.
Yeah.
What do you think HBO did that ESPN didn't to stay relevant?
HBO had content. I mean, ESPN is a news outlet. It's a news outlet. It's not a particularly important one in the grand scheme of things because it's just sporting news. You can always just Google the score of a game. But HBO, before anyone else, was creating content. They always had original stuff. You know what I mean? Maybe not always, but for a long time, they produced original premium television.
Yeah,
it was different than what you could see on TV. It was usually grittier.
Like the huge thing was stand-up comedians really help them in the 80s.
They could unleash. They didn't have to
be young comic specials and stuff before they started making the original shows, and they just made movies too. So.
Yeah, and so obviously, but frankly, if they hadn't gone in with Warner, by the way, there would be no contest. They needed to expand their library by a lot in order to keep up with Netflix and everybody else. But because they got that partnership, and they've always made original content, there was always going to be
always quality too. That's all their shows are considered some of the greatest.
And I would say that after Sopranos, and other people will disagree with me, but whatever. After Sopranos, there was a bit of a break in HBO's relevance, probably. I mean, what was the big show after Sopranos?
You had shows like, in terms of like that was big, but not Sopranos big, like a True Blood or
Right.
an Entourage singing,
So
or
something
like
for
Curb Your
the HBO
Enthusiasm.
fans.
Yeah.
Something for the HBO fans that made sure that nothing that brought in necessarily a lot of new people, but something that kept the people who were there happy with that fact that they were paying money to be there.
Yeah, they always created good shows, like cult shows like a Big Love, or
Yeah.
just going off of those,
And
Curb Your
then
Enthusiasm.
Game of Thrones. I
Yeah.
think most of the fact that HBO is doing what it's doing now came from the sheer luck, and I do think it was mostly luck,
Mhm.
that Game of Thrones came out at the start of the digital like streaming age. That
Yeah,
Game of Thrones
2013.
pretty much coincided with the rise of Netflix the entire time. And by the time Netflix became like a household name like it is now, Game of Thrones was just about wrapping up. So the entire rise of streaming also coincided with what was probably definitely the most popular HBO show since Sopranos, and possibly one of the most popular TV shows since, I don't even freaking know, Dallas, like one of those old shows that I've only ever heard about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like definitely has a big culture and big. Oh, two shows also big. Wire was big too, and
Wire was pretty big.
And Deadwood.
But yeah, no, Deadwood not as big as The Wire, but
yeah,
The Wire is pretty big.
It was just still there that made those HBO subscribers happy because it was.
Oh
good.
yeah, no, like I said, they always kept their people happy, like their consumers happy. They always made good shows. But I mean, like, people watched The Sopranos. Like, people got it to watch The Sopranos because that's what people were talking about. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like, people were talking at work, at school about The Sopranos. So people went on, bought HBO so they could watch The Sopranos, so they could talk about it with their friends and coworkers. Game of Thrones, same exact way. I know because I was one of those people. I got tired of not knowing what was going on. So I would say a lot of it was luck. Obviously, they had to build their content library, but they had a good base to start with, as we just pointed out, because we named all of the shows between Sopranos and and Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of really good shows in there. So yeah, I would say that's probably why HBO can do it. What is ESPN really going to do? It's
yeah, they highlights. Have ESPN Plus, which kind of sucks, to be honest. And
ESPN
like,
Plus, but like
you have to. It's not
content.
Fun to. It's not. I mean, you have to be a hardcore to actually watch their stuff. If you want to watch, I want to watch extra coverage of the British Open specifically.
Right. Like, who cares?
Yeah, I really only have that for the 30 for 30s, and that's sporadic when they.
Most people only have watched them all. It came with Disney Plus.
Exactly.
Most people just have it because of that. Because Disney has a big library, and so big, in fact, that they just gave people ESPN for free. So
right.
And ESPN also is very corporate, and a lot of it is.
You're right. Exactly. I just laughed like.
And a lot of sports fans are stoolies.
Yeah,
they're not the corporate type. You know what I mean?
Because that's why they go to a bar stool,
right?
Instead. And it just
they don't like to be buttoned up. They like to be like, they're less of a shirt and tie and more of a polo. You know what I mean? Like,
and yeah, that's what ESPN used to think. Like that's the way to go. But they wonder why a bar stool, a Bleacher Report beats them out, because they most identify with their fans. ESPN, and when you say the suits, it makes me laugh because, like, do they realize who they're attending to? Sports fans who watch sports, get drunk, who get personally sad, have personal tragedies when their team loses a championship. And they just want to, give us some corporate mumbo jumbo, and they wonder why they can't keep up.
Yeah, but there comes a limit to, and we're not going to get into this because it'll take up the rest of the show. There comes a limit to the other side too.
Yeah.
The populism of Barstool has its own set of positives and negatives.
Oh yeah.
That you can't ignore. You just can't. I mean, you could do it if you're Barstool. I guess they seem to be ignoring it, but there's a ceiling there, and they haven't hit it yet. Which means, I mean, there's plenty of money to be made. But I also don't know how sturdy anyway, I want to get into the Barstool right now because that'll take up the rest of the show. But
you're right. It's going to be interesting to see if they're here to stay within the 2020s.
Yeah, that's
and see what they're gonna do to,
or what
to
they
make
more.
that.
I think they're here to stay. They're a big company and they've made a lot of money.
Oh yeah, for
It'll
sure.
be interesting to see what it looks like and who's in charge.
Yeah, like at what point
the later part of 2020s.
Yeah, like
to see if Barstool looks the same as it does right now.
Yeah, like at first Barstool was very college oriented, like showing people getting fucked up and stuff like that.
It's already moved. It's already matured from that.
Yeah, so now it's gonna see if Barstool will they, is it gonna be the last thing on this is will it be like the quote from Dark Knight? You either die a hero or see yourself long enough to become the
New
villain.
York Yankees. I mean,
literally, man, literally. So, what's the next story for you, Ryan?
Yeah, we're gonna round out this entire show with sports, sort of. But you mentioned some people get very passionate about wins and losses for their sports teams.
Yes.
But this weekend, if you are a chestnut head, you have a lot to be grateful for. So I, like many other Americans, celebrated the 4th of July. And I did so by watching highlights of Joey Chestnut from California stuff his face with hot dogs in Coney Island. On Coney Island, sorry. Not in, you're on Coney Island. But you're in New York, but you're on Coney Island. But anyway, so he broke his record. He was like 76 or whatever. So he won that tacky, mustard belt, which in fairness looks just as good as Universal Championship in WWE. So take that how you want it.
Walk around with it everywhere you go. Like the guy in the bar showed you, who showed up with a Universal title.
I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a move to make, I guess. But I got curious. How much did Joey Chestnut win on 4th of July for stuffing his face full of 76 hot dogs? Turns out it's only $10,000.
To win the whole contest, shop ESPN. Here's you who win $10,000.
Yeah. So there's a $20,000 prize that gets split amongst the top 5. The first place getting $10,000.
Really?
A lot of people over there. Another interesting bit of information: they pay the men and the women exactly the same.
Hey, look at that. So the
women's champion and the men's champion both earn the same amount, and second place, third place, etc. There is no difference. $10,000, right? So now I was curious. I was like, I mean, I don't know what Joey Chestnut does or did, obviously, before his success in the realm of hot dog sports. But I was like, how much is this guy worth? Because if he's only making $10,000 every year, he's not worth a lot. You know what I mean? He's actually worth $2 million because he owns a condiment company. He took his fame in eating hot dogs, and now he makes ketchup and mustard. I don't know the company. I could not find the company.
Really?
He was a former. Yeah, I couldn't find it. But he's a former construction manager too, by the way. So I mean, I'm sure he had a little bit of money when he just started eating hot dogs all day. But
this might be a dumb question, but is his name actually Joey Chestnut?
Yeah, I believe that's accurate.
Okay, I'll double check that. But you were saying
he's from California. Anyway, so yeah, he is a condiment king in addition to being a champion eater. But I was reading, someone posted an article on Twitter, a Yahoo News article, and I am actually going to pull that up as I'm talking to you, as I'm vamping here. And it was probably the most eloquently written piece on hot dog eating that's ever existed. Let's see if I can get it. Not eloquent, that's the wrong word, but it was definitely probably the most time anyone has ever spent thinking about and then writing about professional hot dog eating. But I learned a couple things. One, so here we go. The greatest competitive eater of all time, Chestnut, aka Jaws, did not know that was his nickname.
Jaws
was once again crowned Nathan's champion every year, but Nathan's champion every year but once since the era of the Takeru Kobayashi reign in 2006. Michelle Lesko won the women's, and he talks about Michelle Lesko. I'm not trying to, move past her. Although there was some controversy because she didn't beat the Joey Chestnut of the women's division, Miki Sudo. She wasn't there because she is on maternity.
Oh,
Yep.
good for her.
She's giving birth at the end of the month, so she's not going to eat a lot of hot dogs. Chestnut can once again relish in his victory, which he earned by beating number 2 Jeffrey Esper by 26 dogs. They go on to dunk on ESPN, which is why it's so funny that that's what you decided to do right before this. The real loser, however, was ESPN, whose efforts did not cut the mustard. The network's feed cut out several times, leaving frustrated audiences wondering if their TVs were on the fritz during some of the event's most dramatic and compelling moments.
That's bad. It's
dramatic and compelling moments in a hot dog eating contest. I would love to know what that is.
Random. Did Matt Stoney compete this year? I think he was the only guy who ever beat him.
Well, no, the only guy that ever beat him was, what's his name? Kobayashi, I believe. No. Let me see. Yeah, no, you're right. It's Matt Stoney. It was one time. He lost one time. It was to him, which is also in the article. But no, I don't see a Stoney on this.
I love his videos. I love his videos. Don't watch them late night when you get hungry, but he destroys. I don't know if you've ever seen, he does everything. I read this entire article about the way that the Major League Eating works. And I'm just going to say, the fact that they only get paid $10,000 just perfectly encapsulates Major League Eating. It's basically a carnival sideshow. Yeah, like I feel like the Oyster Fest does
that we just pretend is a big deal. You know what I mean?
On 4th of July, that's the one thing it's funny. Everybody like that. Joey Chestnut, 4th of July.
Right. He's only
a household name.
1 day a year. 1 day a year. No one cares about him until 4th of July. Like, oh, Joey Chestnut.
Does he eat like has he been in other contests?
Yes. He holds the record for burritos and hard-boiled eggs.
Burritos, that's hard with all the carbs on that with the breads, but
it's all hard to me. I have no idea how he does this.
Is there like a type of person, like a stomach to take all those hot dogs in, like certain genes, or you're just risking it?
I have no idea. What we'll have to do is we'll have to watch the career of Mickey Sudo.
And there's definitely a 30 for 30 coming.
Right, and their child, and see if that child also becomes a professional leader.
Well,
AKA Jaws Dose.
Well, he has my support, Joey Chestnut, and I guess you have to invest. You have to invest. You're winning sometimes. So
he took lemons, made lemonade. He only gets $10,000, but since he stuffs his face, he can sell ketchup.
So, just do you have any more stories, or
I was gonna talk about not really, but friend of the pod, Rudy Giuliani, just lost his law license in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Poor little pervert.
It's crazy how much of a reputation that guy had in like
America's mayor
approval rating just to go down to the shitter.
Honestly, I think there's a case being made. He looks more like America's mayor now.
Oh, my God.
But yeah, America's mayor. So he's not practicing law in New York or D.C. I don't know where else he can practice law, but if he hasn't, he should probably go ahead and just get on the Florida bar, because that's probably the only place that will keep him at this point.
Literally, they'll be happy for him, but
yeah, I mean, Florida doesn't seem to do a heck of a lot by way of rules and regulations at the moment. So,
so just 2 quick stories on here. One, baseball, All-Star break.
Yeah,
it is this Tuesday, and you've had 3 people announce, and 2 big names. Of the few big names in baseball, you probably get a random person like, oh, I heard of them. You have New York Mets pitcher Jacob deGrom, arguably the best pitcher of his generation, pitching the ace of the Mets. And you have Houston Astros Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa say that they are not playing as well. Now, here's the thing with this, the All-Star game. I think this helps shows you proved the point that, or you've made the point that a lot of, especially this generation's athletes, with just the insane amount of money they make, they really care about the fans. And in MLB's All-Star game, which has definitely declined in popularity, I actually don't plan on watching it. I have a podcast recording that day, and I'm not nervous about missing it. And like the MLB All-Star game, and the one time where you can get some kind of clout, like some type of celebrity involvement, but I even doubt that's the case. I've never heard. And you could actually, maybe for a few days, baseball actually is more of a mainstream level besides the World Series, obviously. But yet, Now you're starting to see the players just straight say, "Nah, I'm not coming."
Hmm.
Now there's only 3 for now at the time of this recording, but hey, there might as well be some more players who there might be a chance that more players say like, "What's the point? I might as well go home and rest to play in a game that's not relevant. I don't want to get hurt." I mean, there are bonuses if you get to be an all-star. Every player gets an extra bonus, so there is that. But you'll still get the bonus even if you don't show up to the game. And
well, they should
like,
probably change that rule.
do you think that this is brand new? This is the first time people have done it. I don't know. I'm sure there's players who said they refused to go, but not of any note, like crazy story that I would know. And I feel like I know a lot about my sports. But if I did miss out, oh well, let us know in the YouTube comments, and then
hit like and subscribe.
Exactly. And well, I was wondering, do you think this helps your claim here in baseball, a sport that is dying in popularity? Though I will say, I feel like they've made some strides and they're trying their best. And I do think there's major plans ahead. But for now, baseball is not as popular as it used to be, obviously. But do you think this is a trend that helps prove your point? Players have more other intentions than trying to entertain their fans.
So I'll be honest, I actually really wasn't thinking about baseball when I said that. It's true of baseball too, but I was thinking more of the NFL and the NBA. Because don't. And in fairness, by the way, for the NFL at least, the fans have open, and actually the NBA recently, the fans have openly proven that they have some pretty they have some malcontent for their players. So perhaps this is just a symptom of a larger issue. But I do think that the All-Star games, they were a fun attraction, right? I mean, growing up
as a kid, especially.
Yeah, I loved it because it's almost like the Avengers, right?
Yeah, literally, right?
So, in every sport, I mean, the only sport that honestly should just axe the whole thing is football. They should just announce who's on the Pro Bowl team,
like they did this past year for COVID.
Yeah, to be like, here's your Pro Bowl award. You were a good player. You're in the Pro Bowl, and they don't actually do a game. Maybe make it a Madden thing, right? In Madden, take all the Pro Bowl players and you can play a Pro Bowl game with the players. But anyway, not the point. You shouldn't play the Pro Bowl. No one's going to do it because all the good players are on the 2 championship teams, and all the championship teams are getting ready for the Super Bowl. So that's my rant on the Pro Bowl. But the rest of them should mean something. There should be a reason to want to win.
Yeah.
And there isn't. Why? Well, A, because the players don't really care about anything besides their personal brand and their personal wealth, which, whatever, fair on them. Most people don't. I'm not insulting them. Most people care about their own personal wealth. But the players, like, what is the players' incentive? Even if you're like, oh, the winning team gets to host next year, the players don't care.
Yeah, there was one point that the winner, which I think was a great deal, but people didn't like it because there was too much integrity for a game that's not that important, is that the winner of the game, who's ever league, gets the home field advantage in the World Series, but they stopped that a few years ago. Yeah, personally, I thought it was cool to have some type of stakes in it because it obviously matters.
Yeah, but so think about it this way. So you're Jacob deGrom. You're not going to be in the freaking World Series. You could be.
Well, yeah.
Realistically.
There's a good chance this year. Mets are pretty good this year, but
but in general, like
yeah, it depends on like the likelihood
still, by the way,
of a player.
I'm a Mets fan. We've blown worse than this.
Yeah.
Or we've blown better than this rather. So so let's just assume now you're DeGrom. You're like, realistically, am I gonna be in the World Series? No. So do I care if the National League wins the World Series? Of course not. Why would you care at all that the National League wins? You want to win. You know what I mean? So like, there needs to be a reason for them to be playing that incentivizes all of the players that are in the game. I don't know what that is. There may not be anything, and if there's nothing, then you know what? They should cancel it. They should do the home run derby, right? Maybe they could do a celebrity game like basketball does.
Yeah, they do the celebrity softball. Usually they shoot it before, but it would be after.
Yeah, but who's in the celebrity softball?
Like a TikToker.
Right. Get someone.
Josh Richardson or
get
whatever.
Kevin Hart.
And Kevin Hart, of course.
Get Kevin Hart. He
You
does
get
the
Kevin-
basketball ones. So if you can get him for the baseball ones, people will watch. That's just
Right.
That's just science.
Yeah.
But
it's not like you have Patrick Mahomes coming in or Leonardo
honestly,
DiCaprio.
they probably don't want Patrick Mahomes. He might be better than some of the players, depending on the team. But no, in all seriousness, they should really, if they can't find a way to incentivize players, and this is for basketball too, if they can't find a way to incentivize the players to be, because I mean, the NBA changed a bunch of stuff to suit the whims of players too. It used to be East versus West, which makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Right. And then the problem is too many all-star players ended up on the East.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, no. And then now there's too many on the West, and they're like, no, I don't want to share with this person. I want to be the star. So now they start picking just random team captains, 2 people, and then they pick all the players themselves. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, and they do that. Basically, they did that because too many players are like, I'm worth more than sharing with this guy. You know what I mean? Like, they're like LeBron's like, I'm not sharing with Steph Curry, sort of thing. Those are examples. I have no idea if LeBron James did or didn't say that, but we can assume based around the time that all this happened that he was probably part of the decision.
It's just LeBron, and they choose who's the other big players. It's only been
so LeBron gets to play against the flavor of the year.
Exactly. Who's the trending player? This year was Giannis. They've had Steph, and there's one more in there. I don't know if it's James Harden or Kevin Durant, but one of those two.
Probably Kevin Durant.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean,
so
he's up there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then and so next time it'll be whomever. Yeah, exactly. And that's not like no one cares. You know what I mean? That's not East versus West. There's nothing for the fans to cheer for. So there's got to be a reason for these games to happen. Like I said, in a normal game, there is a reason. You need to win in order to be in the championships. So what do we get for this? What do we as fans get for investing in this game? What do players get for investing in this game? Because you're saying money, which is fine, but we pay them millions of dollars a year. They don't really need money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like a bonus, it's nice. For someone like me and you, a bonus is awesome. But for, a professional athlete, they don't need a bonus.
Right.
They just don't. I mean, it's nice to have. Now you're telling me they can get it without even doing what they were supposed to. That'd be even nicer if I just got a bonus regardless. You know what I mean? Like, hey, thanks for working here. Here's your bonus. You know what I mean? But you don't have to show up after that.
Sounds like a hedge fund type.
Yeah. But so they don't need the money. So it can't be money. It's gotta be draft picks, maybe I don't know. Yeah. But if you're
baseball lightsaber
player,
battle, a baseball bat lightsaber battle.
But now if you're a championship team and it's for draft picks, you're not going to get the first draft pick anyway, unless that's what you do. Unless you take all of the players, like all of the teams that were represented on the winning All-Star team, go into the lottery too for the first draft pick.
Yeah, it really does have to be measured out. But hey, just a long list of what baseball needs to do to be cool again. The last story I have, Ryan. As we mentioned 30 for 30, HBO announced that they're starting a documentary series, which happened to also be created by one of the creators of 30 for 30, Bill Simmons. They are launching a music documentary series called Music Box. The first one's coming out in July 23rd, and there's gonna be 5 films this year, which I'll say which ones they are shortly. But like 30 for 30, they're doing recent interesting stories in the music world, probably within the last 25, 30 years. Yeah. Whether it's artists, events, whatever, we're going to see a new documentary series show about, various moments in music in recent memory. First one that comes out, July 23rd, it's going to be a documentary film about Woodstock 99, infamous music festival that was intended for peace and love to celebrate Woodstock, but turned out into riots and a lot of crimes taking place. But some of the other stories which I'm interested to see how that unfolds, but the other stories that are taking place, the films I should say, there's one about Alanis Morissette, famous singer from Canada, huge in the late 90s. Juice WRLD, gone too soon, rapper on the rise, sadly died from overdosing on pills to hide from the police. But I love Juice WRLD. Kenny G, the famous saxophonist. Robert Stingwood. To be honest, I don't know who that is. Do you know who Robert Stingwood is?
No. Look it up.
But important enough to get a HBO documentary, I guess. Robert Stingwood is an Australian, was an Australian-born British resident music entrepreneur, film producer, and impresario.
Oh, he was a manager of Cream and the Bee Gees, and created theatrical productions for Hair and Jesus Christ Superstar, and film production for Grease and Saturday Night Fever.
That's it.
Cream is a super group. Bee Gees are the Bee Gees.
Yeah, I think we're reading the exact same article. And it says on his death, one obituary judged him as the most powerful tycoon in the entertainment industry, where the quote is, Stingwood owned the record label that issued his artists' albums and film soundtracks, and he also controlled the publishing rights. Not since Hollywood Golden Age has so much power and wealth been concentrated in the hands of one mogul. Wow, I'm really interested in this doc, actually.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
And the last one is DMX. So, Ryan, what do you think about this? Simple as that.
I mean, it would be interesting to see how this limited run does, this first, slot. I think they started off strong with Woodstock. I mean, everybody has heard about Woodstock 99 and the catastrophe that became. And also there's some really big names who are associated with that show.
Oh yeah, there was a hype type and new metal, like Limp Bizkit, Korn, Rage Against the Machine, those type of bands.
But not even just them. Yes, them. But Rage Against the Machine, Limp Bizkit, those groups went on to have or continue to have successful careers.
Yeah, Metallica,
and they really don't want to talk about. Yeah, Chili Peppers, another one. They don't really want to talk about the fact that they were, basically the soundtrack to a lot of violence.
Yeah, when you put it that way.
Yeah, so it's just interesting how many bands that we know today were, are kind of tainted when you really think about it. So they definitely picked a good one to start.
Especially Limp Bizkit, I feel.
Yeah, so they picked a good one to start with. I shouldn't say that. I don't know exactly how this will look. If it's a lot of behind the music vibes, like VH1, then I don't think this will do well. If it feels somehow like 30 for 30 or the Jordan docs and doc and things like that, if they can somehow match that, which is those are just real popular right now, then they should probably be fine. But I just, like I said, because we did have the VH1 behind the music, and we've had these kind of documentary on music. We've had that. It's not a new genre, so that could be something that hurts them. Is if it feels a lot like behind the music, which I don't even think it's still on, or something like that. You know what I mean? If it feels kind of corny in that way, even if the format's not that way, even if they try and match the format of 30 for 30 exactly, if it just doesn't come across the same way, they could be in trouble. I think that this is probably one of the ways where ESPN helps. Is that people watch ESPN for sports. Music is very personalized. It's very niche. People like certain things and dislike other things, based sometimes just on the day. So that could be difficult too, finding where's the audience. You know what I mean? What do Woodstock 99 fans and fans of the Bee Gees have in common? Or DMX and
Alanis
Morissette, exactly.
It's funny. You will say these are all very different docs,
right? So, and that's what I'm just saying. That's that. Again, 30 for 30. Sports fans are a special breed. They're sports fans, So I would say that there's probably a good chance that you make make good quality stuff. There will be sports fans around just to watch them all. With again, DMX, Alanis Morissette, that's actually probably the perfect example. And maybe they'll make the case as to how they're similar, right? But I could see that being difficult. But if they hit it out of the park, especially on that first one, and I'm sure they spend a lot of time on that first one, they'll probably be fine.
I really feel, especially now with filmmaking in general and documentary filmmaking, as long as you have the money and resources, It's really hard to make a bad documentary with the technology we have on
you
all
seen
three.
The 790 Donald Trump documentaries that exist on Amazon?
Yes. Well, that's what I'm saying. There's of course people who just don't care, just want to put an agenda, hence not creating a narrative.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel especially the fact that you do have creators of the 30 for 30 making this. I think they will transfer just fine. It is HBO, who has a humongous reputation. Yeah. I don't think if they would put this out if it was bad. And yeah, I really just want to see where this grows. So nice 6. I'm just wondering, besides the Woodstock one, are there any ones of those 5 that really stick with you?
Like Woodstock?
No, I mean like of the topics and the dots, I mean, and stuff. Like
they were all interesting in their own way. I mean, obviously DMX and Alanis Morissette, I feel like those two, only so I could compare them now at this point, would be kind of fun to watch. But Alanis Morissette was really, I mean,
she was huge in the 90s. She was like,
and she was tied up in not tied up, but like she was like kind of a product of like the what do they call it with the women, and like the "What If God Was One of Us," that was one of the songs.
She was caught up in that type of like that era, like that.
Yeah, look that up. And then DMX also, he came up at a very interesting time during like hip hop and rap's rise.
Yeah, and he's very vulgar. Very vulgar rapper too.
Well, yeah, but that's not even So Lilith Fair, which was a tour of traveling music that was founded by Sarah McLachlan. But
I've heard of that.
There's like a type of like music now too. It's like it's almost got its own sub sound. Again, a lot of women and kind of the guitar and all the thing. But she was kind of like a breakout from that. So women's issues being critically important nowadays too. I could see that being the lens with which they cover Alanis Morissette, and again DMX same way. And also rise of hip hop
for people who are the biggest names in their genre at the time, and where are they now?
Yeah, and like I said, DMX same thing as her, kind of a breakout from this like grungy underground rap kind of mold, and had to take that and bring it into a mainstream audience that didn't look like DMX, just like she had to break it. I'm literally convincing myself that they have the same story. So I think those are both interesting because they can both talk about some interesting social stuff. Woodstock 99, obviously, even without any current social connection, it's just an interesting story. This Robert Stingwood, don't know anything about him. So I don't know what that's going to be like. And I don't know what else you said. But
it was Juice WRLD.
So Juice WRLD is popular right now, and this will be a hot take. I think a lot of people will watch that one, and it'll be the one that's least remembered.
I thought there was a hot take. It's going to be highly rated. But
it's going to have a lot of viewership, and it's going to be probably the most forgettable.
In terms of what?
In terms of when people think about this series.
Oh yeah, no. Oh, sorry. I meant like. Why do you say that? I should say.
Just unfortunately because of the brevity of his career.
A lot of potential.
Well, right, and so a lot of potential. You can say a lot of potential about everybody that's ever existed. I happen to agree from the limited knowledge I have, all of it gained, by the way, after he died. But in general, like a story about how this rapper was going to be big. Trust me, that's not as interesting a story as like DMX, a rapper who was big. Period. Yeah. DMX was big, and it was big again when it didn't really make sense for someone like him to be big. He's vulgar and things like that. Like, you know what I mean? He just took off at a time that was hard for, a rapper to take off. Right. And so I would say that Juice WRLD, I mean, we know the narrative. We know that the narrative is going to be, and I say narrative, I don't mean it to be disrespectful, but it's a story. Every story has a narrative. If they're telling a story without a point, then you're not telling a story. You're just listing facts. So the narrative is going to be about, the lost potential, about, the tragic end to what could have been one of the greatest rappers. Right. But because there's no way to prove that story, it's just not going to, it'll be good. It's just not going to be remembered. You know what I mean? Yes. The same way. Because as we get further and further away from his, from his death, people will know him less and less. You know what I mean? He can't make new music. He can't achieve any level of stardom beyond like cult favorite because he just isn't around, unfortunately. So I feel like, again, that's where the hot take comes in, by the way. Not that it'll be highly rated.
Yeah.
It will be highly rated because he's very, very relevant to right now, to our current times.
Right.
Very popular right now, but it's just not. I think if this is a successful series,
5 minutes.
It'll that'll be the problem. If it's
Right.
for that'll be the low point of the show in terms of like longevity. People are not going to rewatch the Juice World one, I think, but a lot of people will watch it the first time.
And I guess the last one is Kenny G, the saxophonist. I'd play his music, but then I get a copyright mark, and we couldn't hear it anyways. And
that'll be. I'd take it.
I guess it'll be about how do you make the
G,
saxophone cool?
Yeah, Kenny G might actually be, because it's the saxophone, might actually be the least popular one. I take back what I just said.
Hey, I saw a cameo, so he'll make you a personal song for $600.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I would just watch that. People send Kenny G like song specifics, and then he goes ahead and makes it for you.
My last question is there any other like music stories throughout recent history you'd be interested in, whether like a Napster, the rise of Spotify and Apple Music?
I mean, Napster is a good one. But
anyone in particular, whatever happened to Soulja Boy?
No.
I don't know.
I'm thinking
the conservator of Britney Spears. Well, I guess that was
that'll be something for sure. But I wonder if they're gonna cover the Amy Winehouse stuff.
Oh, that has to be. You gotta do that. They did
do
a
stuff too.
There is a great documentary about her that's on Netflix, but
I've seen that. But I think that could be something. I almost wonder, and I don't know if we've ever really told this story. If we did David Grohl from, being a member of Nirvana and like having that be, I mean, when you join a band like Nirvana and you break big, you probably assume like that's your career, that's your shot. Right? Most people don't go twice. And so to follow that story, David Grohl from Nirvana through to, he's even above Foo Fighters now. He's David Grohl.
Yeah, he's the face of Foo Fighters. He got the first concert
but even beyond Foo Fighters, like he is rock. He's kind of rock and roll. He's the last rock god. He's the last rock star.
The very last rock star of all time. That's the title right there.
That's the title, exactly. Yeah. So to go from drummer of Nirvana to have that end just kind of crushingly, and then to rebuild with the Foo Fighters and reach the status of the last rock god is kind of like that. I think that's an interesting story. I would definitely watch that one. And again, if you do it while he's alive, you can get David Grohl to talk about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, like you said, he's pretty much the face of rock when you think of it, and like you said, they got the first Foo Fighters was the very first concert in Madison Square Garden with people back. There's something to that after the historic pandemic, and I guess we'll have to see. There's this one YouTube channel called Rock and Roll Stories.
I've seen that. You showed me that one actually.
Yeah, pretty much. I hope Music Box doesn't just take all their ideas, because there's some interesting stuff that they do, and it's only 10 minutes. And
super groups could be fun too, but they wouldn't be able to do that because it's too many different groups. But super groups are a fun concept.
Exactly, no doubt it is. And we have some fun in store. And with that, as we wrap it up, a lot of fun here. Don't forget to check out the TweetCap. You can follow them at TT TweetCap on Twitter. Ryan, you have any final words?
No, make sure you keep listening to Productive Conversations podcast. Comes out twice a week at least. Got some more coming down the works here, so definitely keep in touch. Feel free to contact either one of us on Twitter, on social, on YouTube, you name it. And if you want to hear a recap of what we talked about here on Productive Conversations podcast, that comes out every Sunday at the TweetCap on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere you find your podcasts.
All right, excellent stuff. We'll see you in a couple weeks, Ryan. Thank you so much. And you stay the way you are. Have a great night, Ryan.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Bye-bye.